Hello, what's your PC Jack, and welcome to this week's news roundup. This week, the CPU landscape made a significant shift. While the gen-over-gen improvements we're seeing from both AMD and Intel are nothing to sniff at, it does come at a cost. Let's get into it. So, this week saw reviews of the Ryzen 7000 series along with the launch on Tuesday 27th of September. While the expected changes and improvements we saw, such as higher clock speeds up to 5.7 GHz, increased IPC, DDR5 support and even a new AM5 socket have all been fairly well received, there are some aspects of this release that has the PC building community extremely concerned. Today we're going to look at a few of those concerns, but one of the most widely debated ones has been the Ryzen 7000 series temperatures. In a huge shift, AMD has designed their Ryzen 7000 series CPUs to hit TJ Max underload up to 95C in order to hit the highest speeds possible. Now this is intended by design and not overheating, as the way these chips are designed is to actually hit their power limits in order to sustain higher boost clocks as long as possible. This obviously raises a few questions though, most notably, is it safe to run these CPUs at these high temperatures for such long periods of time? While it's difficult to gauge if this would adversely affect the lifespan of the CPU, AMD promises this is by design and acceptable for longevity. Okay, but how do you now actually see if your CPU is actually throttling or not? So now, instead of monitoring your thermals, you'll have to watch your clock speeds, which of course if you become thermally limited is the only way to monitor if you're actually throttling or not. Now, a lot of people aren't happy with this, as reviewers are very quick to bash Intel when it comes to their CPUs drawing up to 300 watts of power. So to see this bias when it comes to AMD CPUs is a little bit strange, but only time will tell whether this is actually something to be worried about. One of the biggest concerns though is obviously pricing. While the 7950X and 7900X has been fairly well received, the expectation that you will spend $300 on the 6-core 7600X, a new motherboard with X670E coming in at nearly $300 on the low end, and even the requirement for DDR5 memory, which as of the time of filming is dropping in price but is still pretty expensive. Investing in the lower end of Ryzen 7000 series is a difficult pill to swallow, which is reflective in current availability because as of the time of filming, you can still get a hold of them pretty easily, which is strange given Ryzen 5000 series sold out instantly. Of course, we are now in a recession, which is obviously going to have an adverse effect on the sales of these CPUs. But of course, when B650E and non-E arrives, this should give some users a few more options and a bit more flexibility when it comes to their budgets. And hopefully, that will see a much wider adoption rate of Ryzen 7000 series as a whole. But of course, much like how AMD pulled the limelight out from when Nvidia announced their RTX 40 series of GPUs, Intel pulled the same card and revealed not only their 13th gen Raptor Lake CPUs, they even finally announced the release date for one of their Intel Arc GPUs. Thank God! At Intel's innovation event, further details were released on 13th gen CPUs, which currently seem pretty competitive with current Ryzen 7000 series pricing, as well as having benefits in being supported on a previous generation motherboard with Z690 and B660 for example, as well as still supporting DDR4 memory, which is much easier to access than DDR5. So with these CPUs arriving from October 20th, it's going to be a very interesting time to be a CPU buyer. Personally, I'm looking to actually upgrade my editing rig, and seeing these CPUs has got me really excited with the choice that I now have. In a move with PC gamers that will rejoice with huge relief is the fact that Intel is finally releasing their Intel Arc GPUs. The Intel Arc A770 GPU will now be arriving on October 12th. Now you're probably wondering, hey, is there something else happening on that day as well? Well, you'd be right, as Nvidia is launching the RTX 4090 on the exact same day as well, which, while being leagues ahead in many ways over the A770, targets a very different audience, while the A770 comes in at $329, which is a price point that Nvidia has seemingly forgotten about. Based on this price point as well as reported performance, it's expected that the A770 will perform toe-to-toe with the RTX 3060, which if Intel manages to achieve, in my opinion, is enough of an impact in the GPU industry for a first endeavour. I'm really excited and hoping that Intel brings something new to the table, but fingers crossed for that October 12th release day and that these claims do hold true. Closing things out though, in a turn which basically everyone saw coming, Google has finally axed Stadia and are now contending with the severity of cutting off what I would consider a very small base of users. In this article from the BBC, it says, Phil Harrison, Vice President and General Manager of Stadia, said in a blog post, "A few years ago we also launched a consumer gaming service, Stadia. And while Stadia's approach to streaming games for consumers was built on a strong technology foundation, it hasn't gained the traction with users that we expected, so we made the difficult decision to begin winding down our Stadia streaming service." So it still seems like cloud gaming for Google is still a little bit of a ways off, but at least they are actually reimbursing users for any hardware or software purchased. But if you like this guy who put thousands of hours into Red Dead Redemption, maybe Google has burnt a bridge too far. So, that's it for this week's news roundup. If you enjoyed it, then please feel free to like and subscribe for more videos on the way soon. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at PCJack94. If you'd like to talk more with myself and other like-minded hardware enthusiasts, then make sure to check out the PC Jack Discord. You'll find links to all those in the video description. Thanks for watching, I'll see you next time.